Good morning, everybody. Welcome. It's another Scale with Strategy. My name is Elizabeth McFadden, and I am the CEO and Director of Brand Strategy here at Novella Brand House.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm April Beach, the CEO of the Sweet Life Company and host of the Sweet Life Entrepreneur Podcast. It's great to be here with you guys.
So good to be here. So I'm excited about this topic, networking like a badass to build your brand and leads. So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about a few different tips and some ways to really approach networking strategically so that you can build your brand awareness and you can build leads to your business. And then April and I are going to take a little bit of time to just talk about, because we're different. I have a brick and mortar business. April has an online business. And so there's just different ways that we've gone about networking, but both of us have built successful businesses by networking and using our networks. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice this morning. So first off, I want to start off with networking. The aspect of networking should be a part of your marketing strategy, and you really should think about it like that. It's not just about, oh, I'm going to go to this event, or I'm going to go to this conference, or, I feel like since the pandemic, you can go to events and you can go to them virtually. So you can do a lot of that as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be in person. And I think sometimes people think, well, I'm just going to do this if I have time, or, oh yeah, that Friday morning's available, I'll go to that. That it shouldn't just be kind of an afterthought. It really should be strategic in terms of like what type of events you're going to. What are you hoping to achieve out of that? And then we're going to talk a little bit about once you actually meet these people and you build your network, then what do you kind of do with that? And really what your expectations should be. So the first thing is, and honestly, I feel like a lot of topics that we discuss here, we always start with this, but know who your audience is. You have to have already identified who your target audience is, like who your ideal customer is. It doesn't make any sense for you to go to events or do networking in situations where your ideal clients are. And sometimes your ideal client or even your target audience, they may not be necessarily the direct people that are directly using your product, but they are a fantastic referral source, or they're a good, they bring leads to you, and they may be at these events. And so that would make sense. But don't spend your time at events where your ideal customer isn't. That really is a waste of time, and you're kind of wasting their time too, because if you create these relationships, you're never going to be a fit for them. Now, the exception to the rule would be, if you're in a networking situation where you're supporting a friend, you're supporting a colleague, maybe you're supporting a client, like something like that's a little different. But for the most part, you need to be networking in situations where your ideal customer is. The second thing is, be yourself, be authentic. You are not there to sell, okay? Don't say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and what kind of marketing can I do for you? I mean, nobody wants that. It's like meeting somebody in a bar and being like, hi, I think you're fantastic. Let's get married. I mean, you wouldn't do that, okay?
Well, some people do.
True, right? But if they do, you're completely turned off.
Right.
Right? Or I could take this to not PG level, so we won't go there. But nobody wants that, okay? Yeah. So it's about just truly the first part of networking is just meeting people and just being interested in who that person is. What do they do? What is their company about? Sometimes you can be at an event, and that person may not be your ideal customer, but they could be a fantastic lead sort of funnel for you, or connector for you. Right. And the key about being yourself and being authentic and just listening to people and getting to know somebody is building a relationship. And that's really where networking ultimately helps you build your brand awareness and create leads for you. It's about building a relationship. So as I noted in the description for this show today, that not only does the idea of networking need to be a part of your marketing strategy, and we already talked about that, but you also need to be using your brand strategy. So let me tell you how you're going to do that, because that's kind of in this step of when you first meet somebody, have your business cards. Okay. Or if it's if it's a virtual situation, you're probably going to follow up, or you might connect with LinkedIn, which is kind of the next thing. Make sure that your LinkedIn profile is filled out, is robust, is, if somebody goes there, they can find out what you do, who you are, that type of thing. Also your website. So generally when somebody, you meet somebody at a networking event and you make a connection and you take their business card, or maybe even if you don't have business cards, if you can do like the virtual business card, there's different apps for that. But the next thing they're going to do is they're going to go look at your website. Like, okay, what is this company? Who is this person? And so make sure that anywhere that somebody might be kind of their next step after meeting you, that your brand and that, even your personal brand are represented in the way that you want them to be represented. So that's where your branding and your brand strategy comes in. The other piece of it is when you introduce yourself, okay, what do you usually do? You're like, hi, my name is Liz McFadden. I'm the CEO and director of brand strategy at Novella Brand House. And then naturally people are like, oh, what's Novella Brand House? What it is that I say are a brand statement. We're a branding focused full service ad agency based in Kansas City, Missouri. And they're like, got it. So that brand statement, that's a part of your brand strategy, that when you introduce your company, that, or your organization or your nonprofit, whoever you're with, that is what you're going to use. So there's just a couple of examples of how you use your brand strategy as a part of networking.
Those are really good examples. I think a lot of people struggle with the brand statement, which your company does, which we talk about here all the time on the show. But I think it's that sort of like block where a lot of people can't articulate that well. But in our conversation here, you're talking about when to articulate that in an authentic way, not like, hey, how are you? But as you were saying, I think the authenticity part is so important. So,
right. And if you think about it, like, again, you first introduce yourself, but the next thing that somebody's going to ask, or you're going to ask somebody else is, oh, April, okay, you're with the Sweet Life company. What is that? That's just like a natural thing. And what you don't want to do is ramble on about, you just want to be really succinct, because here's what that person is trying to determine. First of all, they're just trying to understand what it is that you do and who you work for, or the company that you own, or whatever, right? So they're just trying to get an idea of what it is. But what they're also trying to figure out is, how can I work with that company? Right. Do I need that company? Or, I don't need that company, but you know what? I was just talking to somebody the other day and they were looking for that type of a service or product. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to not only understand what you kind of sort of where you're coming from, or what it is that you do, but how does that fit into maybe what they're needing or how they can help somebody else. And so the more clearly that you can articulate what your company does, the easier it is for somebody to understand, and then sort of assimilate, like what sort of box do they put that in?
Right. Yeah. And the thing is that especially if it's at an event like this, don't forget, you guys, they are there primarily for the same reason as you are.
Absolutely.
When you speak to them, they are there thinking the same thing. They're trying to articulate well what they do. They're trying to be likable and somebody that, they can connect with you on a deeper level. Most people have the same motivation and agenda for being there. And so just remember that you're not there auditioning. You're not there trying out for something. It is just really a place to network. And we want to share the information in a way that you also want to hear it from people. And that can be super genuine as you say it. But as Elizabeth said, like, we don't want to ramble on and give a bunch of examples. And that is something I will even say after 27 years of business coaching, because there's so many things that we can do. I struggle with that all the time, you guys. I have like a different brand statement that I kind of alter and tweak a little bit depending on the audience I'm with. And if you struggle with that too, the only reason why I can do that is obviously because I've worked with Novella to generate that brand statement, right? Otherwise, I would just be a mess, just like blah, 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 you know? So, but it's just remember that they are also trying to absorb what you do in a very succinct way. In this, just it goes, the stream runs both directions in this case.
Right, right. And in terms of like even some tips about how okay, when you're in a networking situation, so whether it's something you're going to in your local community or you're at a conference, right? Just as April said, everybody's there for the same reason that you're there. They're there to meet people. They're there to expand their network. And most likely, most people don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that you don't know that they don't know. And so I call it working the room. And here's a couple of ways to do that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, don't be afraid to walk up to a group of people that you don't know and introduce yourself into that conversation. That's not going to be weird and that's not rude. Again, that's why people are there. They're there to meet people and make connections. If I see somebody, and this is part just like being like doing a good deed, but it also is just a great way to meet new people. If you see somebody, like one or two people kind of off in the corner, they're not really talking to anybody, you can just sense that they're like, we don't know anybody here. Go up to them and introduce yourself. They are going to love you for that, and they're going to feel so included, but it's a great way to meet somebody new. Another thing that I do is I always kind of have like maybe sort of a running list in my head of people that I want to meet, that people I just want to, like, I know who they are, but I don't know them. They don't know me. I mean, we're not acquaintances or anything. And so I kind of have this running list in my head. So when I go to events and I see these people, I go up and I introduce myself, and I just say simply that. I just come up to them. I'm like, oh, hi. I just want to come up and say hi and introduce myself. So a great way, just easy way to make, and again, authentic. That's just an authentic, like I want to meet that person. And I just say that. Another trick, and this is really good, especially if it's a really large event, you kind of feel intimidated. If you see somebody you know, just go up to them and just say, oh, hi, I just want to come over and say hi. That's just a great way to just prompt a conversation. And most likely they're talking to people that you don't know, and they'll introduce you. So those are just a few ways if you're walking into a situation and you're just, again, you're looking to meet people, you're networking, and you're wanting to make connections. So I feel like we've talked about a lot of ways in terms of like, just networking and making new connections, which is really all about building your brand. I mean, the more people that can become aware of your brand, the better, right? And you're constantly having to do that. That's how you build and maintain brand awareness. In terms of creating leads, and we'll wrap this up on this note. So it's really important what you do after those networking events, right? So you want to follow up, and I always definitely connect with them on LinkedIn, and I write in the note, like the little intro, like, hey, it was really great to meet you at Friday's chamber event. I just want to connect here on LinkedIn. So that way it kind of jogs their memory. And I try to do that within like a couple of days, just so again, it's really fresh. If I collect business cards and it's somebody that I'm like, ooh, this would be a really, like, we should have coffee, then I'll connect. I'll send them an email and set up a coffee. And again, that can be virtual, it can be in person, what have you. And then here's another another tip too. If you send out an e-blast on a regular basis and you're trying to build your email list, when you send them that email, say, hey, I wanted to also forward you, included in this is our last e-blast. I hope you find it helpful. There's some great tips in here. We send this out twice a month. Let me know if I can add you to the list.
It's a great idea.
So you have their permission. You're like kind of giving them something. Again, right. I'm never selling them anything. I'm never like, hey, when can I sign you up for branding?
Right.
Because it's about, and that's how you're going to create those leads.
God, those are great tips. Thank you so much for that. And, the thing is that I just want to kind of bring it back full circle. This is part of your marketing strategy. So make sure you guys have those things, like Liz said, in the calendar and agenda as you move forward into Q1 2023, because it is part of a strategy. And this one does take sweat equity and work, but I think it pays off better than anything else that we do.
Absolutely. I'll end it on this. April and I have both built businesses on referrals and strong networking. So it really does work. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.